Lights are going up, snow is falling down. There's a feeling of goodwill around town. It could only mean one thing. McRib is here. People throwing parties, ugly sweaters everywhere. Stockings hung up by the chimney with care. It could only mean one thing. McRib is here.
At participating McDonald's for a limited time.
Audible's best of 2024 picks are here. Discover the year's top audiobooks, podcasts, and originals in all your favorite genres. From memoirs and sci-fi to mysteries and thrillers, Audible's curated list in every category is the best way to hear 2024's best in audio entertainment. Like a stunning new full-cast production of George Orwell's 1984. Heartfelt memoirs like Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson's Lovely One. The year's best fiction, like The Women by Kristen Hanna, and Percival Everett's brilliantly subversive James. Audible. There's more to imagine when you listen. Go to audible.com/imagine and discover all the year's best waiting for you.
Are you struggling to close deals? Cold outreach is wasting the time of both the buyer and seller at every stage, especially when sellers are using shallow and outdated data. Your organization can overcome these challenges with technology that translates comprehensive, high-quality buyer data into real-time insights. These deeper insights empower sales reps and teams to adopt the habits of top performers, which leads to better outcomes, like more pipeline, higher win rates, and larger deals. We call this deep sales. And we've built the first deep sales platform with the next generation of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/trial. That's linkedin.com/trial for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/trial and get started.
This episode brought to you by the following patrons: Legos and Blueberries, Leaf Girl, Min, Sex Caliber Bones a Lot, Madeline, Alyssa, Vixen, Holly, Natasha, Laura, Jeremy with the laser eyes, Allie, Logan, Libby, Aaron, Kristen, Tia, and Jonathan. And all the patrons want you to know you're loved, you're listened to, and you're a valuable member of this awesome Horror Virgin community. And if you want to hang out with us, do so in the Facebook group, where we'll be talking about pornography like it's just another day at the office. Should I do another one?
Because it is. It is just another day at the office.
All right, I'll use that.
Thank you for tuning into Horror Virgin. I'm Paige.
And I'm your Horror Virgin Todd, which means I don't like scary movies, but you guys make me watch them. But this week, I got to make known business genius Paige Wesley.
Thank you.
I got to give her the gift of watching MaXXXine.
Yay, Maxine!
So, Paige, this the third
Yes.
in the trilogy from X, Pearl, and MaXXXine.
Correct.
From the writer-director, I should say, Ty West, visionary horror director, and he's got a lot of films under his belt.
Yes, quite a few.
How did you feel about MaXXXine, and was this the first time you saw it?
This was the first time I saw it.
Me
I
too.
waited because I knew we would eventually do it on the show. I liked it. I actually liked it a lot.
Paige, this is by far the best movie he's done, in my opinion. And it's not even close. It is not even close, in my opinion. This is by far the best thing Ty West has ever done.
I still prefer X, I think, overall, but this is a close second. And the only reason I think prefer X is because I feel like this movie doesn't stand well on its own without X.
Yeah.
Like, you need the information.
Yes.
It's not really a complete story in itself.
I agree with that.
But here's what I will say. After watching this last night, I started to really want, like, you know how Quentin Tarantino wanted Kill Bill 1 and 2 to be the same movie? That's how I feel about this and X, where I'm like, oh, I'd watch, like, if somebody did a more streamlined edit.
Like a 2.5 hour cut of MaXXXine and X together?
I'd watch, like, of MaXXXine and X together.
I'd watch that
I'd be
too.
all about that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really liked it, to the point where I was watching it and I was like, why didn't this do better? Why didn't people like this? Because I was here for this movie. And here's the thing. It tries to hit on a few themes, not a ton, but honestly, to its credit, because it's like, oh no, we're here to have a weird satanic, again, it's satanic panic nostalgia. I fucking love it.
Me too. And I think that may be why specifically you and I are like
Into it.
here for this movie.
Here for it.
I could definitely see if you're not into that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like if you're not into.
If you're not a true crime nerd from this era, this movie maybe does not hold as much for you. If you're not a movie nerd too.
True.
Yeah.
But also, Paige, if you're not the kind of person that found a lot of humor in jump cutting from Reagan's American exceptionalism speech right to the debauchery and terrible nature that was like America at the time, if you thought that was very funny, then you'll like the overall tone and vibe of this movie a lot.
Right.
I also think that this movie lands a trilogy story better than any Star Wars trilogy has.
Oh, yes.
And that's saying something. I feel like Ty West had a very specific like theme he wanted to touch on, and like the price people pay for fame, that kind of stuff, and like what that does to you as a person. He landed that over the 3 movies.
It was really interesting having watched The Substance so recently too.
Yeah.
Which I think tackles it in a totally different way, tackles different parts of it. But like, oh man, to look at these 3 movies as the price of being a star is fascinating and wild. And I do think you kind of need all 3. And I know Pearl was not you and Mikey's favorite, and I was here for the weird. I do think I think this and X fit a little bit better together, and Pearl is kind of the outlier.
Tonality wise, I agree. Although I think I liked Pearl better than X.
I liked Pearl. I think X is still my favorite. There's something about the gritty 70s porn that I was just here for.
It's not my favorite porn era, Paige. Interesting that you like Super 8 porn. Interesting. I like to hear the film fapping as well in the projector. That's what gets Paige going.
No, I think I just like the grittiness of it. I don't know. I really liked X, but like the longer I got into this, I was like waiting for it to be bad. Does that sound crazy?
Me too.
Where I was like,
Paige.
I was like, that really is okay.
I was also waiting for it to be, and maybe this is just because body gore doesn't get me as bad as like jump scares.
Yeah.
I was waiting for it to be, quote, scary.
Sure.
But I mean, if like the gore, if body horror gets you, this movie will also get you. This movie did not scare me very much.
There's some gross body horror in it. Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, it didn't scare me very much, right? So like,
no. Well, but it's also true crime, which we love.
I know.
And that's the thing. It's like some people are very upset and scared by true crime, and we're just not. We're fascinated by it. And so it's like a bit of a different vibe.
But I also knew like we weren't following the Night Stalker. Like I knew that we weren't. So like that whole thing was a misdirect that I just knew.
I knew that too, but I loved the backdrop.
And I loved that backdrop too, Paige.
Yeah.
But I bet if you went into this movie and you were like, because they are dropping a lot of Night Stalker hints at you.
A lot of Night Stalker hints, a lot of true crime knowledge of the time.
Right.
Yeah. And locally too. And so like this was a nerd out movie for me, but it also manages to, I think, land accurately what MaXXXine's trajectory would be from X. Like, she doesn't make a single decision that seems out of character for her, and yet we still have a whole second act story with her, and I fucking liked it. I really liked it. I was sitting there last night and I was like, man, this is gonna be really rough if I'm the only person that likes this movie. But I think maybe just people, it came out at a weird time. Maybe people didn't see it. Maybe people were expecting more of a Pearl than truly just like a satanic panic crime thriller.
It is a different vibe than Pearl. Like it totally is.
Yeah.
It is a little more gritty than Pearl. I think that's just because the 80s were a gritty time, especially in that area in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
And Paige, I think that it does a really good job of staying true to the themes it's trying to present. And I think Pearl did too.
Yeah.
Because Pearl was like doing that stylized section because it was showing like sort of her break from reality. Not MaXXXine's, but Pearl's, right?
And it was the style of the movies at the time.
Yes.
So like that, I think, is what I really appreciate stylistically of this trilogy, is that Pearl looks like Wizard of Oz because that's what was out at the time.
Yes. Well, that was that girl's pop culture. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Exactly. X looks like Texas Chainsaw Massacre because that's what was out at the time. And then this literally is like a neon fever dream with a little bit of grit because that's what it was like at the time.
Yeah.
And I fucking love it. And I feel like it's weird to think of it as a trilogy when I think of it more as a triptych, which I know sounds crazy, where like X is your central movie and these are the bookends of it so that you understand X better.
Oh, so you're just putting the trilogy in chronological order as they would have happened
Yes.
in the history timeline of that series. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, absolutely you should.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like two equal but different forces meeting in the middle, all played by Mia Goth. And I vibes, man. I vibes. I like that Maxine probably gets famous after this movie and finally gets what she wants.
Paige, she would have the most successful movie of 1986.
I know.
Which is saying something because that's the year Top Gun came out,
Mm-hmm.
Crocodile Dundee, The Karate Kid Part 2, Aliens, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, like
Yes.
Platoon. Like she would have bigger movies than those movies because she killed her satanic panic televangelist father
Yes.
on the Hollywood sign, and it's national news, and she's on like Diane Sawyer with her lawyer, who I
Yes.
loved. I loved that he
Yes.
was there for that, didn't say anything, but was like, yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah, try and step over the line. I'll smack you even though it's on TV. Like, that guy is so great in this. Anyway, I loved it.
And to think about like, what did every character do for fame, right? Because we think about Pearl, and Pearl killed a whole ass farm of people
Yeah.
multiple times over
Yeah.
for fame.
Yeah.
And then to get to Maxine, who is like reluctantly killing 2 people total.
Yeah, I mean,
But it's like, you got to do whatever you got to do. You're like, yeah, you do, girl.
she is the final girl of X, you know?
Yeah.
And I really
Yeah.
do like that, like, okay, X does set up that this girl has a motivation to get out of this scene that like, or to get out of this like horrific situation. That makes sense to me. I get why she has such drive and ambition.
Yes.
But she's the final girl, so we only see her like drive away at the end, more or less. And that's it.
Right.
And I do like that in this movie, we get to see how like, oh, a final girl who went through a traumatic experience is also going to have a lot of
Yes.
shit that she has to work through. And we are sort of seeing like final girl day, plus 300. So it's
Right.
like way after the event,
Right.
but she's still living with that, like
Yes.
the PTSD really of the event.
Yeah.
So like when she is about to like strip down Buster Keaton, you're like, I get why she's doing this. Like this is 100% a reaction to like what she's been through.
100%. And also, no offense, if you corner a lady in an alley at night with a knife and threaten her, you get what you get.
Oh yeah,
That's all I'm saying.
the only way she should not have busted his Keatons
Yes.
is if that knife was actually the key to the gate she was opening and it was just a
Right,
misunderstanding. He's just like,
Right.
oh no, I'm so sorry, I didn't want it. No, here, just take the key and open it and throw it back. You can whatever, But he actually did have a knife. If she didn't have a gun,
Yes.
something bad was gonna happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
100%.
It only became a joke when she revealed that she had the bigger knife. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yes.
Not to quote another movie that came out in 1986, that being Crocodile Dundee. Although this movie might feature more cocaine, but it was probably featured less cocaine than it took to write Crocodile Dundee.
I love I love both the amount of cocaine in this movie and its passive usage.
Oh, yeah.
I think that is the most accurate depiction of cocaine at this time.
Paige.
And I applaud them for it. No
Same.
one's got crazy coke teeth. No one's shouting business ideas. People are just like, oh, ready to go to work.
Yeah. Just in a bump before we get started here. I do think it's funny that at the beginning of the movie, she's doing cocaine out of what looks like, I don't know, like a giant goose or whatever.
It's a cookie jar. It's a goose cookie jar.
Gotta get the goose, baby. Gotta get goosed up for work.
So much cocaine.
It was like a shitload of cocaine. Anyway.
It's like, this is gonna sound crazy, a whole bag, but like a
It is
brick,
like a whole brick
you
of cocaine, yes.
you put a brick into the cookie jar.
Yeah. Anyway, that wasn't even the point I was trying to make, though. But she does get goosed up quite a bunch in this film.
Quite a bit, fully goosed.
The point I was trying to make is they used the cocaine usage to sort of typify her getting to movie stardom, because now she's doing coke out of a rolled up $100 bill. Like they show it.
Oh, cutting it with her SAG card?
Yes.
Cutting it
Paige.
with her SAG card, mama.
I noticed that too. Yes. So
I
like
screamed.
they use the cocaine to like signify, look, guys, she's made it. And I love that.
She's made it. And if unfortunately we were to have a fourth movie in this group, which I don't think we will, and good. This is a good stopping point.
Yes.
This is a perfect close to the trilogy.
Yes.
Leave it. But if there were to be another one in the 90s, it would be very sad because it would be her probably having a very substance-like movie, but like having a cocaine problem that she will have to rectify.
I mean, what happens in the 90s and the early 2000s for Maxine is it all ends, right? And that's what she says at the ends of this movie.
It all ends and she turns to heroin. Yes.
Oh, yeah, like RFK or whatever.
I mean, maybe.
But it's fine. She's probably going to be running HHS at some point in the future. So,
Yeah, don't worry about it.
I am. Oh, I also love that there were a lot of nods to like early silent film. Like there's a few times you see Charlie Chaplin in cutaways, like when they're showing the strip.
Well, she walks over Theta Barba's star.
She puts her cigarette out on it, Paige. She like drops it and steps on it right there. And she was like the first femme fatale, right? She was like this.
Yes.
They like positioned her as like this foreign goddess seductress of like the early 1910s, 1920s. But she was just some lady from Ohio, and I've always thought that was funny. That they were like, she's from the far like foreigns, but they were like, no, she's from Ohio. She's from like Akron or some shit.
Well, okay, if Pearl had gotten famous.
No, I know. Yes, that would have been Pearl. Yeah.
Like that's what it is.
Yes.
Like that with the second I saw that I was like, "Ooh, okay."
Yeah.
I really liked this way more than I thought I would.
And we already mentioned the other one, which was Buster Keaton.
Yes.
She's the guy who she like stomps on his nuts. Oh.
He does look like Buster Keaton, yeah.
Well, I mean, he's dressed like Buster Keaton. He is like in Buster Keaton costume.
Yeah, which there is no reason for him to be other than he might be one of the guys on Hollywood Boulevard that you take pictures with. Yes.
It is. And the version that would be at that time, it wouldn't be superheroes because superheroes existed, but they weren't like, they were inside comic books and only nerds read them. So like,
right, they weren't movie stars, so it would have been Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin.
Exactly.
Or whatever. You're absolutely right. Yeah,
and that's why in that scene when she like pulls the gun out and says like, "Hold it, Buster," I was like, "Fuck yeah, that is Buster Keaton."
Yep.
And then she busters his Keatons. It's gross, and I definitely was like, "Oh!"
I was like, I don't even know if you could do that to somebody's Keatons, but
as somebody with Keatons,
don't find out.
You can. Yeah, no, you can. And please don't do it. Yeah.
Ugh.
I mean, I'm not saying this guy didn't honestly deserve it, though, because he was at least going to assault her.
Yes. Or rob her at minimum. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's if it's a good night. Like, it could have been very, very bad.
Yeah. The ideal scenario is that he only robbed her.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
No, I really liked this for sure.
Yeah.
It's wild to me that this is your favorite. It doesn't surprise me. But interesting.
Yeah, this is by far my favorite.
I think you're the only person I've heard say that, but I understand why you do.
I just think you need to start hanging out with people who are right more often. But Paige, I'll say this. I understand if you're like a huge horror fan, why this isn't your favorite.
Sure.
Because it's my favorite.
Yeah.
And that means it's just like a good movie and not necessarily scary, which I love.
Yeah. I watched this and I was like, what if Ty West just made a crime thriller?
I know.
and not a horror movie.
I'm not saying that he should remake a David Finch movie, but like that style of like true crime movie, like the David Fincher, those kind of movies. Like I think Ty West could do that very easily, honestly. He more or less did it with this one.
Yeah. I was on board.
Yeah, but maybe we should just like go through the movie scene by scene, Paige.
Let's do it. We open on old films of a little girl performing for her televangelist father. Now we know, because we've seen the other two films in this series, that Maxine's father is a televangelist. And that's kind of what she is escaping in X. Now, I do think that this movie goes a little further and doesn't say it. It definitely shows, not tells, to imply that there is a potentially sexually abusive relationship at play here with her parent.
I definitely think that is the case, yes. You don't really see it explicitly here. You do see it later in the movie when it's revealed that he's the big bad. Sorry, spoiler alert, but...
I called it so early and I was just like, how's he going to play it? And I'll explain why in just a second. Because if you've paid attention to X, he's the only person it could be. And so at a certain point in the movie, you're like, it's got to be that guy, right? Like,
I did love that the person who's causing all of this satanic panic turned out to be a televangelist preacher, and I was like, oh, so accurate to history. Like,
so
this
accurate.
Is great, Ty West. Thank you.
But yeah, and here's what's wild. I did love that the movie never explicitly said it, but gave you enough just visual info to be like, oh, yes, that's why she ran away.
Yeah.
Like,
of course.
100%.
Yeah.
But it is the tagline that honestly it goes through Pearl and X and this. And the only place it doesn't really fit is Pearl, because how would she have known that phrase? And I don't remember where she gets it, but like, yeah.
I don't remember either, but it's not a phrase that's unique to this situation, you know?
Yeah.
So.
But it's basically, I will not accept a life I do not deserve.
Yeah.
And I do love that every time MaXXXine says it in X and then in MaXXXine, she like shouts coked out into a mirror, just like, I'm a fucking movie star. I'm like, yeah, you are, bitch.
Paige,
yeah,
okay.
you are.
Paige, I have a question. I have a question for you.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Have you ever had that moment with yourself? You ever looked into a mirror and been like, I'm a fucking stand-up comic or something like that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I have done that.
Did you do it in the bathroom at the Comedy Store?
No, I didn't say I was a stand-up comic. I would never disgrace actual stand-up comics like that. I have too much respect for what you all are able to do. I think I'm a very different kind of comic.
When did you do it?
When I was on the road in my band and we had an album in stores. Like, that was the moment I was like, I'm a fucking rock star. But I was a very like B or C level rock star, but like, I'm on the road promoting the album that we got paid to like record, and so like all of that. But it didn't pan out for me as well as it did for MaXXXine. But that's largely because my dad was just like supportive.
Yeah.
Had my dad had been more like MaXXXine's dad, or
this is a dark
honestly,
alley. Don't go down it.
Tiger Woods' dad, like maybe the band would have been more successful.
We can't. No.
It's what I'm learning in this therapy session is that it's my dad's fault because he wasn't more abusive or at all abusive.
I like that you somehow still found a way to blame other people.
It can't, Paige, it cannot be my fault. It cannot be. Although I'll say this, it is.
Yeah.
But it really was just because Chris and I weren't as good of songwriters as we needed to be that level of famous. We were good enough, not that great. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. 100%.
It is what it is.
I feel like if you are anyone who's performing regularly, you will do this semi-regularly.
You do it to almost psych yourself up. And she's like in her trailer, probably about to walk onto set, I would assume.
Yes.
So she's like, you're a fucking movie star. You got this. You deserve to be here. For me, it was a way to like bypass
imposter syndrome.
Yes, it is imposter syndrome where you're like, I don't think I don't even deserve to be in this trailer, or I don't deserve to be hanging out on Bret Michaels' tour bus, like that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of shit where you're like, you're a fucking rock star. You earned your place here, like that kind of shit. Yeah.
I don't often say it into a mirror, but I
shout it from the rooftops. That's what Paige does.
No, I have a feeling that I have heard many drag queens describe. I have something very similar where it's almost like you put Paige Wesley on.
Oh, yeah. I've heard actors talk about that. Yeah, we sort of talked about that with Tim Curry a little bit.
Yeah.
When he put the heels on, that's when he became Frankenfurter.
You put the heels on, that's when it happens. And so, like, there's a certain point in the get ready process, be it the outfit, be it the whatever, where you're like, okay, now I am the baddest bitch and you can't fuck with me.
Yeah.
And it is a whole extra level of attitude that, like, does not exist when I'm sitting here in my sweats. But it's the attitude that was like, of course, I'll get a tattoo of a piece of pasta. This is exactly what this is.
Hell yeah.
Add it to the brand portfolio.
Love the pasta tat.
Pasta tat. Pasta tat.
What kind of pasta is it? Can you tell me what?
Farfalle. Yeah.
Farfalle. And you got it for why?
So my sister and I got matching ones kind of to commemorate our Italian grandma. And we had talked about doing a couple different things over the years. And then we were going to go to an event last night. And they had a tattoo artist at the event, and they posted a flash sheet, and it just had this tiny little pasta, and we were like, "That's the one." And so we got tiny little pastas.
I love it.
Now I have a tiny pasta tattoo.
Is it your first tattoo, Paige?
Oh no! I have one behind my ear.
Oh, that's right. You have ones by your ears. That's right.
Yeah, I have one by my ear, which hurt a lot less. And then my sister has like a whole ass sleeve going on, where she's got like soup and an olive branch and like a bag of oranges that is probably one of my new favorite tattoos that I've seen on a person, because her tattoo artist used gray for the bag of the oranges.
Okay.
And just something about the combo of the two, it gave it like this really cool depth to the tattoo without it looking hyper realistic. It's like still kind of illustrative, but cool. Anyway.
Awesome.
But yeah, pasta tat. But it's almost this idea of like, when I am home crocheting, sitting on my couch, watching a cool ass 80s satanic panic crime thriller.
Right?
I am this calm, quiet person. And there is a skin I step into to go fuck shit up on the outside world. And there is that moment of like when you are like, okay, I am that person now, that I think is the moment that most people shout, I am a rock star or I am a movie star into a mirror. And I just don't do the shouting part.
Any guy of my age will understand this reference, but is there a point at which, when you're getting ready for a podcast, that you turn your hat around backwards? You know what I'm saying?
No, but that is, I know exactly what you mean,
Yeah.
but yes.
It's an over-the-top reference if you're, I don't know,
Yes.
younger than 35.
Look, if you've got a bodacious rack, it's an over-the-top reference.
Yeah, if you're gorgeous, you probably didn't catch this.
You've never had
Sylvester
to know about
Stallone
this movie.
truck driver / divorce dad trying to make it right for his son while he competes in amateur arm wrestling events. Anyway. But Paige, is there a moment where you go, quote, over the top?
No, not for podcasting
Neither.
necessarily, no.
I do feel a switch. There's nothing I do actually externally. I just, when we hit record, I just switch it on.
I think that's it. I think is when you hit the recording, or it could be just so with my setup, once you put the microphone in place and put your headphones on, you hear your voice through the mic.
You do.
Which in some ways does not sound like your own voice. I know I'm speaking, but I'm hearing podcast Paige.
Right.
And I think that might be the moment my hat turns around.
That's a good one. I like it.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get back to the movie.
Anyways, what a fascinating detour. There's not enough cocaine here. Anyway.
Because we don't have a cookie jar goose full of coke at our desk.
Right. Anyway, we then get a title card with a quote on it that says, "In this business, until you're known as a monster, you're not a star." Which is a fascinating quote that I don't entirely disagree with.
Do you know who the quote was from, Paige?
I did not write it down. I was too busy doing so much cocaine. No, I'm kidding. I don't do cocaine. I do powdered sugar, like literal powdered sugar.
I think it might have been Betty Davis. I'll look it up. Hang on.
It may have been. I feel like there's layers and different ways to take that quote.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a Betty Davis quote. It's, in this business, until you're known as a monster, you're not a star.
Which also explains why they played Betty Davis eyes at the end. I thought they were just being cool in 80s.
Paige, why not both? Porque los nos dos or whatever?
Yeah, it's porque los dos. Why not both? I was going to say vaya con Dios, which is go with God, but also go with God.
Yeah.
And Betty Davis.
Honestly, a lot of people in this movie were going with the goose. You know what I'm saying? They were goosed the fuck up.
Fully geesed. But we open on a soundstage for an audition. Now, this is one thing that has never been my Hollywood experience or the experience of anyone I know, but I do think it looks cool for the movie, so I will give them a pass. And that is to have an audition on a soundstage.
Oh, on the lot, Paige.
On the lot?
Never.
Well, you might be on the lot, but you're usually in the offices.
Oh, yeah, but you would not be walked down to a soundstage. It is cool, though, because we get this shot is a director of photography homage perhaps to himself.
Absolutely.
In, I think it's Pearl when they open the barn door and it stretches to wide.
That's exactly why they did it.
They do a very similar thing here as they track back as she walks in and they're opening that door behind her. I loved it. I was like, thematically, I'm in love with this.
You remember that they do a similar shot in X as well.
They do. They do it in every one.
It is a great thematic knitted together. Love it.
Yeah.
Great. Super into it. It was why I was like, I'm not going to let this weird detail wreck the movie for me. But they are also taping these auditions. I know in the movies, people almost always seem to tape auditions. They don't start taping auditions till a certain point in the audition process, which means she was already down to like one of the top girls, probably, even though there is a line of girls waiting outside.
She walks past like 20 girls. So like, but yeah, normally it would be way less. It would be like 3.
Way less. I think they're just doing it to have the footage later and, because it's a movie.
Yeah.
But typically it would just be your last 1 or 2 people that they would screen test, and they call it screen testing for that exact reason.
But now, I mean, because Natalie does self-tapes all the time. So like,
Self-tapes.
yeah, you tape at the very beginning stage now. So like, that's not uncommon at this point.
Yeah, not uncommon now. At the time, it would have been. And to be honest, it was almost uncommon now because the actor strike fought to make self-tapes paid and did not get that in the bargaining. But I understand their argument. It's a lot of work. If you've ever had to do a self-tape, you know the unique horror of trying to like, oh, God damn, my voice sounds weird at that point. Like, you just fiddle with it forever.
You do. And it is like, Natalie will get a self-tape and it'll take her an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, for 3 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Maybe even less.
Yeah. Anyway, I do love that. And this is something that I think they don't always portray in movies when they make movies about people who have worked in the adult industry. But they go down the line and they're like looking at the back of her headshot and they're like, hey, Maxine, nice to meet you. You're a popular name in adult film. Did you always want to do that? Why are you here auditioning for this regular movie? Because, and they do mention it later in the movie, porn pays way better.
Yeah.
At least at this time for the type of movie she's auditioning for. I like that not a single one of them is like, ew. They're all just like, it's business. Yeah.
I mean,
like,
they're in the business.
Movies is movies.
So they probably know. Yeah.
Oh, they know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is just, I think it's very funny to contrast the film industry people who have almost, I would say, a neutral morality in this movie, which is wild, versus the people picketing out in front of the studio where they're just like, God, idiots. Anyway, yeah, no, we know you did porn. It's fine. Just be here tomorrow at 9. As long as you're not late, we're cool. And I was like, refreshing.
Yeah.
A refreshing reality.
I do think it's interesting that the only person who asked her a question that's relevant to her audition is the director.
Yes.
Who's like the only like really intense like business lady there. So like when she was the director, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Because she's great. Anyway,
yeah.
But she's the only one that asks anything at all that's related to like what could be her performance. And she just asks, is that your real accent? And she's like, yes.
Is that your real accent?
And then we do see her audition.
Do a monologue, just right down the barrel.
Crushes
and she nails it.
Yeah.
Crushes it. And we will find out that it is for Puritan 2. If Ty West turned around and made Puritan 1 and Puritan 2, high fucking marks. I'd watch the shit out of that shit.
I would too. That would be awesome. Especially if they cast that same lady who plays the actress from the first Puritan movie in this movie.
Yes.
That would be so great. Oh my God.
Okay. I also, because it is played by Lily Collins. She is related to Phil Collins.
It's his daughter, right?
Yeah.
She's also like famous in her own right. Like
she's also an actress. Yeah, she has been in a bunch of other stuff.
She has like a Netflix show. I think it's like something
Emily in Paris
or something. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, she's like a famous person. She could definitely like do a Puritan movie.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, it would be incredible. But I love that they kind of play her like Felicia Rose.
I think so too.
It's the scream.
The scream becoming a theme.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. But anyway, we haven't even gotten to her yet. We will get to her.
Yes.
She is the star of Puritan 1. I can't wait for the Puritan movies. That will be great.
Come on, Ty.
Come on. Anyway, I love that she finishes the monologue and then they're like, great, can you show us your breasts? And she goes, oh yeah, sure. And just like, for anyone that it is very, very funny because it seems very tactless. That is exactly what auditions are like.
Yeah.
Like, that is the most accurate depiction of that I have ever seen.
It's almost clinical. It is like, this is a job.
Clinical.
We're all being paid to be here. Like,
yes.
It's not a sexual thing at all, really. I mean, I guess like people can manipulate the situation into turning it into something bad.
Sure,
and, like,
of course.
But that's not the way it's supposed to be. And I kind of like that look at it.
And that's not how it is in this moment either.
Right.
Yeah. I have had multiple conversations with multiple people over the last week and a half. I don't know why. You know how sometimes there's just like a season in your life where you end up talking to people about the same shit all the time?
Yeah.
Of people having to interact with the film industry and being kind of confused and put off by the clinical nature of it in this moment.
Yeah.
And taking it personally. And I have had to explain and this is again, multiple people. This is like almost every conversation I've had recently. I have had to explain to multiple people. It is not personal at all. It has nothing to do with you. They don't have any judgment call or care about who you are. It is a numbers game.
Yeah.
This is a business. You are part of you're a vendor at their business, essentially. And you have to maintain your own personal self-worth while also understanding how you fit into that business and knowing that the business will demand certain things of you and that you have to play the game a certain way to participate in that business. And this is a perfect example of them being like, great monologue. Can we see your breasts? It's not sexual. It's not meant to be weird. We just know we're going to have to show them in the movie, so we need to see them now.
Yep.
And if you're not willing to show them now, you're not going to do it in the movie.
Right.
So like, why even go through the contracting of how much we're going to pay you to do it in the movie if we won't see them now? Like, it is purely clinical.
Yeah.
And I really did appreciate that. I was like, this is exactly what this is like. This is, yeah. Actually, now they probably have an intimacy coordinator talk you through it, but
Not in 86 or 85 when
Not
this
in
movie was being
85.
filmed. Yeah. They actually, like, because of Casey Kasem, we know the week this movie takes place in.
yes. Well, and they do that specifically because a month later, because at the end of the movie, we jump a month ahead, and it is the day after they catch the Night Stalker.
Yeah.
And so that's why they place it at that point in time, because if you're familiar with the Night Stalker case, there were multiple cases over a period of time, and then there was an escalation period in which there were a huge amount of cases in a very short amount of time. Now, you could absolutely argue, and this movie does, and I do think it is correct, that there were copycats that were not Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. But there is also very clear evidence that Richard Ramirez had an escalation period, and a lot of serial killers do, and it is usually right before they get caught because they get sloppy.
Yeah.
And so this movie exists in that escalation period, which is very fascinating to have that as kind of a backdrop for this movie.
I agree.
But
I loved it.
anyway, she leaves the audition and there is a line of girls outside. Now, the only thing they could have done better with this line of girls was to make them all look more alike, because that's the freakiest part of an audition, is walking out of an audition into a room of people that look like you and realizing that there are that many people that basically look like you in a 10 to 15 mile radius.
At least in a city like LA. Yeah.
Madness.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I guess we're all the same. But she walks out. There's a line of people and she just goes, y'all better go home because I just killed that shit. I was like, I love this attitude.
I know.
Good going, MaXXXine. And then MaXXXine climbs into her convertible Mercedes with a personalized license plate that says MaXXXine with XXX, and drives through the porn protesters out into the street into a Reagan montage. Now, this is very important because this movie shows us that even though MaXXXine is not movie star rich, she has a Mercedes. It's hers.
Yeah.
She has a whole apartment to herself, and it's a nice apartment in a shitty part of town, but it's a nice apartment. She has made some money for herself in the porn industry. And this is at a time when VHS tapes are new. So like she has been successful and notably successful and will probably make less on this. They call them straight movies, which I thought was very fun.
I thought it was funny too. Yeah.
Like, but this is what she wants to do. She wants to be a real star. So that's kind of where we're meeting her. Now, this montage of news footage, chef's kiss.
I know. It's great because I made reference to this earlier because it's like Reagan doing an American exceptionalism speech.
Yes.
And then right to the debauchery and terrible nature of America at the time.
At the time.
And I like laughed. I was like, ha.
Well, yes, in part because this is 1985.
Yeah.
So it is a...
I'm sorry, when is it, Paige? 1985.
Springsteen, Madonna, labor for Nirvana.
Exactly. A little bowling for soup for you millennials out there.
Bowling for soup. It is a time at which the rich are ultra rich and there is the greed is good.
Yes.
There is a facade of America that is being projected to the world through media, through any number of things. It is action movies. It is high fashion. It is buying the labels. It is runway. It is all of the things that America wants people to think we are. And then the truth of people living in America is much darker and not great. And it is gritty and dirty and gross. because it was a time of wealth, a huge wealth disparity. I would say it's not unlike now, to be honest with you. I think that's part of why I'm really enjoying some of the Satanic Panic nostalgia, is because there are a lot of parallels between that time and now in more ways than the conspiracy theories, but specifically the economic disparity and kind of the division in the country. Like, there are a lot of things that were that way that are kind of similar now.
I mean, we are reliving the Satanic Panic. It's just like,
It's unfortunate.
yeah, yeah.
Not fun to live in, interesting to look back at. But this montage really does a great job of demonstrating that, of this kind of, this projected moral superiority versus the advent and like boom of porn goes to video. That's huge.
Yeah.
That is a huge boon for the, sex video industry, essentially. It makes it a fully legit industry. I am fascinated by any media about porn going corporate. I think that is a fascinating thing that happened at this time. And even in the late 70s, I think Boogie Nights is a really interesting movie too.
Yeah.
But it's wild to contrast those two things, especially knowing that her dad is a televangelist who would have been very much on one side, and she's successful on one side and she's successful on the other. That's fascinating too.
Wait, what do you mean? Successful on one side of what? Oh, on like, I guess exploiting the moral center. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Because, yeah, because he is just like selling them something that's not true for money, and she is selling them her body for money, but it's the same group of people who are buying it.
I would argue she's also selling people something that's not true for money. She's a performer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I loved in her audition when she says acting is acting. And I was like, what a great answer. Because truth.
Yeah.
Truth.
She is also an uncommonly good actress. Like, Mia Goth is very good.
Oh, yeah. Mia Goth is fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, like, when you see that opening monologue, you're like, and she goes, y'all can leave because I just fucking nailed it, to like the line of 20 other
So good.
ladies that are out there auditioning. Like, she's right. She did nail it.
She did nail it. Coming out of this montage, we go to the landing strip, which is it looks from the outside to be a bar, like a dive bar, a strip bar near the airport. I do believe it is the Burbank airport, which I think you flew into last time. But the reason I'm pretty sure it's Burbank in this movie is because a lot of porn was made in the Valley, where I live.
There you go. That makes sense.
Lots of nondescript houses housing porn sets. Anyway, at this point, and it is like a long continuous shot of her going through this dive bar out to the back where there is a secret porn set.
Yeah. And she like walks on the set, and the people who are like having sex, the girl is like, oh, hey, hi, Maxine.
Hey, Maxine.
And they're like, we're shooting. And they're like, whatever. It's like, it's a porn or whatever.
Who cares?
So
It's
like,
the 80s.
and they're like, she's complaining about like how long it's taking for the dude to finish. Like, it's like that kind of dialogue while they're having sex.
Love it.
Like while they're like filming it. Cause again, it is for like sex, but it is like performative, and everyone involved is like at work. And I thought that was very funny.
I love it.
Yeah.
The camera operators are complaining about how long it's taking. They're like,
God.
we're running over. We'll be ready for you in 10.
Yeah.
You better be ready for you in 10. I'm just like, it just reminded me of in film school when one of my friends was in a class and the teacher told her, it's nice that you all want to make movies, but realistically, a lot of you will end up working in porn.
Yeah.
Because it was a class on like grips and camera operating. And they're like, it's where the money is.
Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. If you haven't finished your holiday shopping yet, or like me, have yet to begin, I've got a secret source for incredible original gifts, and that's Uncommon Goods. They've got unique, hand-picked gifts for everyone on your list, all in one spot. Gifts that spark joy, wonder, delight, and that's exactly what I wanted type feeling. You know what I'm saying? Somehow they know exactly the perfect gift for every single person you know. So skip the gifts that scream last minute and find something truly original at uncommongoods.com. Here are some of my favorite things that I found on this site, and I hope Natalie's listening. So, okay, guys, there's this cool throwback speaker with Bluetooth radio that I thought was awesome because it looks like an old like speaker, like from back in the day, like from like 1920s back in the day. It looks really cool. I'm into it. Also, I'm a workaholic, so they also had this really cool like adjustable laptop desk that I could use. So like I could always be working. Anyway, so like those are some great things you could get me. I'm just saying, whatever. It's clear when I was going through their site just now that Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, often handmade, or made in the US. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/horrorvirgin. That's uncommongoods.com/horrorvirgin to get 15% off. Don't miss out on this amazing limited time offer. Uncommon Goods, we're out of the ordinary.
Today, the LGBTQ+ community is at a crossroads, with our loved ones and hard-won rights increasingly under attack. For decades, the Human Rights Campaign has been at the forefront of the fight for equality in the face of discrimination and harassment. With the support of people like you, HRC fights for a world where lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people can live openly and thrive, free from fear. If you're ready to support the fight for equality, to donate today, visit hrc.org/give. That's hrc.org/GIVE.
Anyway, she sits down to do like her makeup and whatever, and there's like a radio. We're hearing Night Stalker, Casey Kasem, but also information about the Night Stalker.
Well, we don't hear Casey Kasem until right before she beats up Kevin Bacon.
That's right.
But this, I think it's actually like a TV in the background of the room she's putting on makeup.
Something. It doesn't focus on it, but we're just hearing it.
But we're just hearing the audio because I think it's like it sounds like a news announcer. That's the only reason I say that. But he's like, the Night Stalker strikes again at like whatever kind of report.
It reminded me of in Terminator where she gets to work and she's in the back room.
Yeah.
And another Sarah Connor has been killed and her coworker is just like, you're next. And I was like, yes.
Yeah. But it's also, this is the scene where we first see the goose cookie jar full of cocaine.
Yeah, the goose cookie jar full of cocaine.
And she does get goosed up before she goes out to work.
She gets goosed up. But at this point in my notes, I was just like, is this a Night Stalker movie? And I got way more excited.
Because this is the second time they've really said stuff about the Night Stalker. And they could just be the first time placing it in time, right? Okay, that was going on in LA at that time.
Right. Which is kind of what I thought the first time they did it.
The second time you do it, you're like, okay, there's a reason they keep throwing this in my face.
Yeah.
And the reason is it's one hell of a misdirect, Paige.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
We see her get dressed into a nurse outfit and I was like, party.
Yeah.
Like, great.
But like she's like aqua netting her hair so it's like as big as hair can be.
Around the nurse like hat thing.
Yeah.
But her coworker / friend is like, hey, tonight there's a party in the hills. Do you want to go? And she's like, no. And she's like, okay, fine. She leaves. And then Maxine leans into the mirror and is just like, I will not accept a life I do not deserve. And then like gets fully goosed with the coke.
Yeah. It also does position that she like works a lot. Like she does have her own car. She has her own place. She's like successful-ish, but she has to work very hard to maintain it.
Right.
Which obviously that's why she keeps pushing and is more ambitious.
Mm-hmm. Then we cut to Hollywood Boulevard where she is making a phone call and she's like, hey, she is at her apartment on Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah.
She lives right above a video store. Great. And she's calling her agent. We'll talk more about her agent in a little bit because he's a very specific kind of agent that does in fact exist. And we will talk about it. But she's calling. She's like, I'm running late. And he's like, well, I got bad news. You didn't get the music video, but I got good news. You did get the horror movie. And she's just like, oh my God. He's like, everybody loves an underdog. Go for it. So she goes downstairs to the video store to say hi to her friend Leon, who I wish we had more screen time with because their friendship made me so happy.
I know.
And it was a real bummer when Leon got killed.
I know. This movie, and it's, I don't know. It is like an homage to 80s horror movies, I guess. So it does make sense that the first murder we see on screen is someone who's a black man.
Technically, it's the third murder.
We don't see those murders on screen. We see them get taken into a room and then we find their bodies later.
That's true.
His is the first one we actually see on screen. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, Ty West, but I liked him, so why?
I know. Well, it is a bummer.
Yeah.
Wish he didn't have to die. But I do think there's some interesting stuff around his death. And I do think like by then he is the third person to die. So he technically wasn't first, just the first we see on screen. But like, I do kind of like that her dad took a while to get to him, I guess. So we got some screen time with him.
Yeah.
I just wish it was more. Anyway, so he works in a video store and she's like, I'm going to be in a horror movie. And he's like, oh, we should watch Puritan 1 tonight. Like,
Yeah.
awesome. Great.
Which is what you would do. Like if you nailed the lead in Puritan 2, you know what you're doing? Throwing a Puritan party that night with your closest friends. 100%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're all going to wear neck to wrist to ankle clothes and like put A's on our chests, like whole nine.
If you don't think I'm showing up in my Mormon Tabernacle Choir cosplay outfit to your Puritan party page, you're insane.
I saw Goody Proctor over by the chips and guacamole. You've got a guest book at the front. It's just the devil's book. Put your name in it.
Or what you do is you just have it open. They all sign it. And then at the front, you close it so they can all see it's the devil's book.
They're like, no. Over the snack table, it just says, wouldst thou like to live deliciously?
Oh,
yes.
See, now we're just throwing the best party in the valley. Yeah, this sounds awesome. Come on.
Have a Puritan party, y'all. Have a Puritan party. Anyway, we then cut to her second job, which is in a peep show.
Yes.
Now, I knew someone who used to work in one of these because Los Angeles still has them.
Really?
Yes.
I'd imagine it's more than a quarter, but...
Oh, it's $20. Or at least I would say 6 years ago when they were working there, it was $20 a pop.
Literally pop.
Literally pop. But she, and I'll have to look it up and see if it's still online somewhere. If I can find it, I'll post it in the Facebook group. I don't know if it is. She filmed an interview series, like a web series, where she would invite people, like comedians, like famous people, whatever, to be interviewed through the peep show window. And it like blurs it out so you're not seeing like the full peep show. But people are having to answer questions while they're watching a peep show.
Paige, it's a shame the Hot Ones was already taken for this style show.
I know. But yes, they still exist.
Wild.
Often you will see it called lingerie modeling.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a name for it occasionally. But so this does exist. But the guy watching her has leather gloves on and breaks off the wood thing, the like little counter outside. And here's what's real gross thinking back, leather gloves is her dad.
Yeah.
That's extra net.
I think that's why he breaks it. I think he's mad. Yeah. He's not like turned on.
No.
He's like so mad that she's living this life of sin or whatever. But he's also probably going to jerk it about this later.
Yeah. And also it's without his, outside of his, because I do think there is a sexual abuse nature.
Me too, Paige. Me too.
To their relationship. So I think it is also a power thing of like outside of his influence.
Yes.
She is doing this.
Yeah. I also think that like he definitely is. I mean, I'll just say this. Anytime he's on screen and is wearing the gloves, he's shot like Dr. Claw.
Yeah.
So like you only see like his arms or legs or whatever.
I did have Dr. Claw in my notes as well.
And then it's like when it's finally revealed who it is, you see the gloves on the table and then it reveals her dad. Anyway, I thought it was funny that every time he's on screen in the gloves, he's just shot like Dr. Claw.
Yes. And often from the same angle of like just a glove next to a phone.
Yes, that's what I mean. It's like the angle, it's just the hands.
Gotcha.
Like had he been carrying around a cat, it would have been 100% Dr. Claw.
But yes, so Dr. Claw is really upset at the peep show.
Yeah.
We cut to at the end of the night, she and her coworker Halsey, I forget what her name is in this movie, but it's Halsey, performing artist Halsey, are walking home after work.
Yeah.
And she comments that they shouldn't walk home alone and that basically Elizabeth, I forget her last name, but the Black Dahlia wasn't famous until the Black Dahlia happened.
Yeah.
And so like people didn't know that it wasn't safe until that happened. Anyway, she stops to get a hot dog and she's like, hey, I'm going to a party in the hills. You should come. There's like a fun gondola that you have to ride up to the house, which we'll talk about that more about that when we get to the actual house later.
Well, that actually exists.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Impractical as fuck. We'll talk about it when we get there.
Of course, yeah.
But this is where she mentions that movies, like straight movies, pay bad compared to fuck films, which is true. But she hops into a cab with her crazy accent. And the cab takes off and she leaves. And Maxine then puts out her cigarette on Theda Bara's star.
Yeah.
Anyway, she walks home and she's cutting through alleyways to get back to her place. And she gets followed down an alleyway that is unfortunately gated off at the end. So it's a dead end. He is dressed like Buster Keaton.
He is.
And he's got a knife. And he says, you can run and you can hide, but you can never get away. And she pulls out a fucking 9. And like, boy, did he regret that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's lucky because he was coming at her with a deadly weapon.
Right.
That she didn't just shoot him in self-defense, you know?
Right. And
Like-
and none of us would have, like, he has a knife.
Yes.
Like,
it's not a fake knife.
he is threatening her
Yes.
with it. He has threatened her. Yes.
So like when she does have him like get on his knees and suck
And
the
suck
gun's
the gun.
dick or whatever, and he does fillet it for a second, and then she has him like get on the ground naked, and then she busters his Keaton. She like steps on his nuts, and they show all of it.
Yeah. And they like, it's almost like stepping on a water balloon full of yogurt. Like that's kind of what it looked like. It was real gross.
It was very, very gross. I did not like it, and I did yell a little. I was like, oh, God. Like, it was bad.
Yeah.
This is the reason this movie is not a one for me.
We then cut to her, like, safely home in her apartment watching Puritan 1 with, I thought Leon might have been her boyfriend at this point. I think there are indications later that Leon is queer.
I think he even alludes to that the first time you meet him, because he says the only reason you feel comfortable with me is because I'm the only guy
Yes.
that's not trying to fuck you.
Yes.
Or whatever.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
isn't necessarily an indication that he is gay, but just that he's like either gay or not into
That they're
her
friends,
or whatever.
yeah,
Like, yeah.
something.
He's safe.
Yeah, there's another thing he says later that I think firmly, like more directly indicates it.
Oh, I think they do. Yes. I think you are right. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, she hears something outside and goes to answer the door and sees a door at the end of the hall close and a package is sitting on her doorstep. She opens it. It is a blank VHS that just says for MaXXXine.
Yeah.
And I just, in my notes, I just have 7 days. But at this point, because I've been doing something recently, because I criticize pacing all the time,
Yeah.
and I feel like not a lot of people understand why and where pacing fails. But what I've been doing recently is when I get to a movie, when I get to what is definitively an Act 1 turn, I check the time
Yeah.
to see where we're at. Because if you're hitting your Act 1 turn well, you're probably going to stay on track for most of the rest of the movie. This Act 1 turn comes at 25 minutes because this is the video from the farm, and that's exactly where it should be. That's exactly on time.
But he's written so many scripts and turned them into movies at this point. That does not surprise me at all.
It doesn't, but they have occasionally had pacing problems.
Sure.
I think X is one of the few that gets away with it because of the way it kind of layers the story in. But this was perfect. This is incredibly well done. But it is a videotape of the porno we saw her shoot in X. So she puts it in to see what it is, remembers it. Leon gets up and is like, hey, I'm going to go home. And she's like, okay, bye. He goes to skateboard home.
Which I loved. I was like, oh, that's what I do around my neighborhood. Except I do the lazy version because mine is electric. So I can, if I don't want to kick, just go like hit the gas. It's fine.
I bet that hurts if you fall off it, though.
I have fallen off it, and Paige, I regret to report I fell off it going up a hill. Which is, I don't really know how I did it. I think I like hit a stick or something that like stopped the wheel a little bit, and it just caused me to move forward. Anyway,
dumped you.
I busted ass going 20 miles an hour up a hill. It hurt.
Yeah, I bet it did.
But I look like a 50-year-old man riding a skateboard. I have like all the pads you can have. Like, yeah, I was fine.
Yeah.
But I bounced.
Yep. Anyway, we cut to inside a car with, and I didn't immediately recognize it as Kevin Bacon because he's kind of at a weird angle, but it's Kevin Bacon.
Also the accent. He's doing a great job, I think, but
Oh, he's great in this.
it's not like Kevin Bacon normally sounds. You know what I'm saying?
No, he plays against type, but he does a great job.
I think he does too. Yeah, I liked him in this a lot.
But he's basically talking to Leather Gloves Man, and he's like, look, this is
Look,
more
Dr.
than
Claw.
I signed up for. Look here, Dr. Claw. If we're going to catch Inspector Gadget, I'm going to need more money.
If we're going to catch Inspector Gidget, which is what I'm going to call Mia Goth's character from now on.
Go, Gadget breasts.
Wasn't Dr. Claw... Wait. It wasn't Dr. Claw. It was Inspector Gadget's daughter was Penny, so never mind.
Penny.
That wouldn't work
No.
because it's not Dr. Claw's daughter.
Because this isn't Showgirls.
That's what happened to Penny?
That's what happened to Penny.
She became the other girl in Showgirls, but not like, wait, she was the one that like ended up with Save the Last Dance guy, right?
Yes.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we can't go deep on Showgirls. If you want to go deep on Showgirls, call Elizabeth Berkley or listen to our Showgirls episode on Romance in the Pod.
Anywho, Dr. Claw is in the backseat, and Kevin Bacon is like, Dr. Claw, I am way more invested and involved in this case than I thought I would be, and I'm getting my hands dirty. You're going to have to pay me more. And he's like, all right, money's no object, which should be suspicious for a preacher.
Yes, honestly, anytime I see a preacher, I am already suspicious.
Well, I mean, hey, there are good preachers out there. I know there are.
No, I mean like in a movie. If you're in a satanic panic movie and you're a preacher, you're probably the bad guy.
You're probably the villain. But I just mean in general in life, if you're like, hey, that pastor seems to be driving a Maybach.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or my preacher has a plane.
Yeah, right. Why he got a jet, though?
I'm like, oh, okay. So you've never read the Bible is what you're saying. Okay, cool. But like, yeah.
How's that eye of the needle going for you?
Exactly. Why do you need rewards in heaven when you can have them today, Paige? Or whatever televangelists who like ask you to send them all your money say, I don't know.
Oh, no, it's if you, whatever you give, God will give you back tenfold. That's what it's the promise that you will get money if you put money in. Anyway.
Cool. So can we sue those pastors if I give them $100 and I don't get $1,000 back in a month?
Ooh, no, because gambling is legal in some states. But also it was a donation to a nonprofit, so no.
I know.
But that's why our nonprofit laws are broken. Anyway,
yeah. We
can't get into it. I could lecture all day. Anywho.
You know I can shout from the rooftops all night, but I'm not gonna because I respect you guys.
Thank you. We see a fancy corridor. Love the green doors. Love the mid-century vibes. But it's both her friends. Tabby and Amber are their names.
Yeah, it's Halsey and her other friend who was also in the sex work industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amber is Halsey. Tabby is the other one. And I was like, not Tammy? No, Tabby. Okay. All right.
Yeah, Tabby is Halsey. Amber is Chloe Farnworth. I just looked it up.
Oh, okay. I had 'em mixed. Anyway, they're locked in a closet, and we're seeing this cut between like bad camcorder footage.
Yes.
Which I love, which also having something to say about the means of filmmaking being brought to the masses and not always used for good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, which we also kind of tackle in Pearl because he's a projectionist. And so he had, anyway.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, this is the party in the hills. Who are these people? Who is the glove man? Who are all of these people around?
Who are the henchmen of the glove man?
Who are the henchmen? Yeah. From the screaming, it is implied that they brutally torture and murder Amber and Tabby. We will find their bodies later. We do see a helicopter over the Hollywood sign, and we cut to the next day when Maxine has gone in for her fitting and her life casting.
Yes.
Now, I do think this was really interesting that they include this, and I do think this is meant to be a scare within the movie because the life casting process, I find very anxiety inducing.
Same. I struggle sometimes on like elevators that are too tight. So like,
sure.
Yeah. So I definitely would have trouble with this, especially if they didn't poke holes for my nose.
Yeah. They're supposed to put straws.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the vibe of the person who's doing this, probably someone in makeup. I don't know.
Yeah, it's makeup.
The vibe of that person is like, hey, I'm going to put this stuff all over your face that makes it so you can't breathe, but also it makes it so we can do like a life cast of your face.
Yeah.
It'll be helpful when we're making the model at the end. Listen, I'm going to dump this Play-Doh shit that's like going to slime down your body. Just sit here for 10 minutes. Try not to die. As you suffocate slowly, and I'm going to leave the room?
Oh, that's insane. They would never leave the room now. Like,
Insanity.
Now, they would never. I have had my hands and feet cast, and it's an alginate. It's the same stuff they use to make retainers. And so they like mix it and pour it on you or whatever, and then it just slowly hardens. Or if you're doing your hands and feet, you like stick them in a bucket.
Yeah, I've done my hands with a previous significant other at like a county fair kind of a thing, you know?
Yeah, you can sometimes do it at county fairs.
It's the same kind of thing, but like they didn't pour it over our faces, not poke holes so we could breathe and then leave the room for 10 minutes.
Well, and they don't show the the full process. She leaves to get bandages is why she leaves the room. Again, they would never leave the room now if you do this, but they're supposed to put straws in for your nose. And then after they've put the Algin over you, they layer bandages on it. And then the bandages harden almost like a cast, like on if you break an arm or whatever. And then they cut it off you and crack it open and then pour, silicone for masks and everything into it.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things that like most actors have to do at some point.
Yeah.
Not even horror ones. Like they do it for her to make a cast of her head, which does come out looking great.
Yeah, it looks great.
Looks great. But a lot of people will do it even just for basic makeup and testing, especially if you have any hair pieces or facial hair pieces or any sort of prosthetic, you have to do it.
Yeah.
So like a lot of actors have done life casts, and they have done in interviews, have talked about how fucking terrifying it is and how awful of an experience it is.
I would struggle with it. Yeah.
I would struggle.
If it was my head and face and like they poured, so the makeup artist like puts it on her head and like sort of smears it down her face and then leaves the room, and it slowly starts to like drip down her body and like covering her body, which is also like, it's like wrapped in like cellophane.
They usually do shoulders up.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, but like, because below that it's like wrapped in, not cellophane, but like something that they could just like peel off of her, and it would, like, you wouldn't have to clean that section. It's like just to protect the rest of the body because they don't need the cast of it.
Right.
But like, she can't breathe. I do think that they were showing like quick shots of the old lady and the way the old lady looked.
Yes.
Because I know they were, but I think they were doing it because like of the similarities between the way the stuff was falling off of her and the way Pearl's body looked late in life.
Yeah.
Like, I think that there was a lot of like not the substance type imagery, but like in that vein that they were showing there.
I think it's that, but I think there's another layer because in watching the footage of the old woman, I was like, oh, Mia Goth had to actually do this.
Yes.
Because she would have needed a life cast for the old lady.
Oh, yeah.
And essentially she freaks out and falls backward, which is why, because you are not strapped to the chair, but you can't move. And that's why they don't leave you alone when this happens. I can't believe that makeup lady walked out of the room. But she basically falls over in the chair, and the makeup lady rushes back over and is like, oh my God. Like, first of all, you're definitely concussed now. Oops. Secondly, like, we'll get you out of here and redo it or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think it is this almost like visible representation of like your past is closing in on you.
Yeah.
In a little way, and it's suffocating. It's great. Super good. But we also see her scar, and it's like, what happened? She's like, oh, I got shot. And she's like, who shot you? It's a long story.
If I was that makeup artist, just because I'm a snarky cunt personally, I would have been like,
we got 10 minutes.
No, well, she can't talk when she's in the mask though, but I would have been like, I asked you for a name, not a story.
Oh, boo.
But that would have gotten them talking, and I want the story. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Now, we cut back to the police at, it's the Hollywood Memorial Cemetery is what they call it, which I don't know if that's the same as Hollywood Forever. It looked like Hollywood Forever because it had the big mausoleum.
Yeah.
So, and I think Hollywood Memorial is the official name for what we call Hollywood Forever. They show movies and stuff there. Sitting on the graves. Actually not. There's a lawn area. It's fine.
But the two cops they're like known people. It's like Michelle Monaghan and fucking Bobby Cannavale, right?
Yeah. And honestly, they're both great.
They're amazing. I honestly hope both of them survived this movie. It's heavily hinted they're not.
Oh,
but you could write it
not.
in ways that you could. I mean, maybe he just passed out Paige. You don't know. Come on, let's make him a star too.
I'm about 99% that he didn't, and that also she didn't.
She had a cross in her eye and then fell down the mountain that the Hollywood sign is on. They're all dead, Paige.
They're all dead.
There's no way that cross did not get smashed further into her brain as she fell down that mountain.
I also love, and it's literally a throwaway line of like who found the bodies.
Yes.
And it was two men cruising on Judy Garland's grave. And I was like,
nice.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good for them.
You mean the bodies in this scene, not the bodies of the detectives later that we find.
Right. No, the bodies in this scene.
But yes, I just wanted to place that for the listeners who may not have seen the movie. I did think that was funny.
To be clear, they were in the lagoon beside Judy Garland's grave. They were having a good lagoon time, not directly on the grave itself. Anyway, they theorized that the bodies have only been in the lagoon for 5 to 6 hours at most.
Yeah.
And they've also been branded with pentagrams because this is, we will find out, they're trying to make these look like satanic murders and trying to make them look like Night Stalker murders. You know who didn't brand their victims with pentagrams?
Richard Ramirez.
That's right. No, he just hella killed people.
Yeah. But Paige, that is what someone who is like trying to make more money by causing a satanic panic in America would definitely do.
Oh, yes.
If they were a serial killer like her dad is. Because he is at a place where he can monetize people's religious fear. So, of course, he wants to do that. He wants to stoke those fears.
There are also stories from this time of law enforcement adding pentagrams to crime scenes to get more funding for satanic panic, like for like air quotes, satanic ritual murder
Jesus.
task forces.
Yeah, okay.
So like, yes, it was a thing that people did.
God.
It's not good.
And it's always the people you most suspect.
Yeah, pretty much. My favorite is there's a police instructional video on like recognizing satanic murders. And a guy like walks up to a tree and there's just a spray painted pentagram on it that I was like, they definitely put that there for the video. Like this was not naturally occurring. And he's like, see this symbol of Satan? And you're like, Jesus Christ. I see that you went to Home Depot.
Sir, you have red spray paint on your hands.
It's black spray paint.
Oh,
At least
sorry.
the one I saw. But yeah, but still it's like, bruh.
Yeah.
Come on. Anyway, Maxine comes out to her car after the Life Cast incident, and she's just blasting cigs and thinking about trauma because that's how it sneaks up on you sometimes.
It do be sneaking up on you like that.
And a PA comes out and is like, hey, here's your script and the information you need to prep for tomorrow. They have a meeting later today where she wants to talk to you, but then you'll be on set for your first day on Monday.
Yeah.
I love your work, by the way, and then leaves. Implying her pornos.
Yeah, of course.
But I love that he's just kind of like, love your work, bye.
Yeah.
And like respectfully, like, nice.
He is actually very respectful. And
Yes.
the security guard is also somewhat respectful too, although maybe a little creepy because he's like,
A little
yes,
pervy.
you are. He's like a little more creepy about it. This guy is super respectful.
Yeah. There's a note on the windshield and it's a phone number. And I think the implication originally is you're like, is it the PA's phone number? It's not.
No.
No.
I think that's the implication, but when she opens it, you're like, okay, the PA would not have had a high school yearbook of her, you know?
Yeah. Because it is basically a photocopy of like a high school yearbook, her high school yearbook.
But it does say for a good time call and then the phone number.
Right.
Which is like, if you think about it, Paige, a weird note to get from your dad.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Again.
Yes. Paige, that's why I said when you said at the beginning of the episode, you think there was some sexual stuff going on and that's why she ran away.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But essentially she calls the number and it is Kevin Bacon who's like, meet me at the 34th floor of the Bonaventure Hotel in 1 hour, which to get there in an hour and get back in time for her meeting in traffic, tough to do, but she does manage it.
She figures it out, guys.
She figures it out. It is Kevin Bacon. And we know this is not, he basically immediately is like, I'm just a private eye. Someone has hired me.
Yeah.
But here are all the people that died in Texas. You wouldn't know anything about that. And they never did catch the person who murdered them. And she's like, I'm not saying I had anything to do with it, but you can't pin it on me. And he's like, does it weigh on you that you survived when they didn't? And she's like, not really, no. And he's like, okay, well, I need you to come to this address. She's like, the fuck if I don't?
Yeah.
And he says, you'll never work in this town again. Now, he then says, we'll release that lost movie of yours for the Texas Porn Star Massacre. I don't think that she cares that the porn would be out. I think it's that they would be able to link her to that case.
Exactly. Because you know who else is in that porn? Every other dead person from that case.
Every other person that died.
Yeah. It's not a threat because it's porn. It's a threat because it's evidence.
Evidence, yes.
Yeah.
This was the point at which I was like, oh, it's her dad.
Yeah.
It has to be her dad because no one else, like the precincts didn't talk to each other. Her name is not on that tape anywhere. She's just one missing body, if that, because there's so many bodies missing. She could have just been also dead. That's how she kind of is able to start over. But the only person who would know to look for her at all would be her father.
Yeah.
Because that's who she was running away from. He knows her real identity. And I think he just sent Kevin Bacon to find her, not to find evidence of the murder. And Kevin Bacon happened to find evidence of the murder along the way, and then her dad is using that, is what I think has happened. That was the logic trail I made in my mind for this.
That makes the most sense to me. Because her dad didn't have anything to do with the fact that Pearl and the barn stuff happened in X. Nothing. You know, he was not involved outside of, he was sort of the reason MaXXXine ran away to do that. But like...
Well, and the only reason we know that is because Pearl and her husband were watching his televangelist program.
Right.
And he put up her picture. So he's actually been looking for her for a long time. Not just for this.
Right.
He's been looking for her ever since she ran away. So like... that kind of makes a difference.
Yeah.
But she leaves. She goes home to her apartment and runs into Detective Williams and Detective Torres. And they're like, hey, you knew both these girls that died. They didn't even know each other, but they both knew you. And you're one of the last people to have seen them. Any info you have is helpful. And she's like, I don't talk to cops. Bring a warrant.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it is unfortunate that more people will die because of this, but also... ask for the warrant every time.
I definitely understand why she took this stance. Yeah.
Full. So they leave. They because they can't hold her on anything, whatever.
Yeah.
She takes the tape to Leon and is like, can you tell me who made this tape? And he's like, no, but it is a quantity tape, which is not as popular and isn't sold everywhere. So I can check with stores and see if anyone bought one. This lead never pans out.
It doesn't because he gets killed.
But I did think it was interesting to be like, yeah, there isn't a way to track this. There used to not be a way to track these things.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, who would have the ability to look for her without having that tape to begin with? And it is her father is basically the only person.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, she shows up to set. She meets with the director. I love this director lady.
Me too.
Where she is like, look, nobody wants me to hire you because of your, history with sex work and because of the people picketing outside. And she's like, I think the story's more powerful with you in it. I think you had the best audition. I want to take a chance on you. So let's fucking go. And they drive around the Universal lot through a bunch of famous sets, which is kind of cool, up to the Bates Motel.
I actually knew it was the Bates Motel before they revealed the sign because we've been there, Paige.
Because we
took a photo in front of that house.
Yes.
I was like, oh, I know this. Oh, yeah, of course, it's the Bates Motel. I was like, oh my God, this is what it's like to be Paige anytime there's a movie that takes place in LA.
Right?
You're like, oh, I recognize that spot.
I've been there.
Yeah.
Yes. And I do like the way she's talking about the sequel. She's like, yes, it's a bloody horror movie, but we can still say stuff about, like, we can talk about art and everything in it. And I like that she highlights, she's like, it's not just a video nasty, I'm making a film. Video nasty is the name in the UK for films that were banned for content.
Interesting.
And she is British, so that's why she says video nasty.
Nice.
But as she's talking, Pearl is kind of zoning out, thinks she sees, or not Pearl, MaXXXine is kind of zoning out. She thinks she sees Pearl in the window.
That's why you said Pearl. Yeah,
yes.
She does.
But the director is like, hey, are you listening to me? Free advice. If you want to do well, you have to make this your obsession. And you have to, like, don't be late, pay attention, keep your head on a swivel.
Yeah.
We cut to MaXXXine leaving the set. And there's a whole picket line and one sign that they, like, stop on just says, horror is not art on the picket line. And I was like, ooh, okay, Ty West, I see you. I see you, fam.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Tell the Oscars. Yeah.
I mean, they won't believe you, but tell the Oscars anyway.
Anyway, but as they're leaving, so if you've ever had to drive onto a lot and then off of a lot while it's functioning during the day, you have to go in and out of a gate of some sort. There's multiple gates on all sides to get to specific stages. Often at the end of the day, there is kind of a line to get out the gate. So they are in line and Kevin Bacon is behind her. She sees him in the rear view and he's just like, oh yeah, I'm still here. I'm here behind you.
He's filming her.
Yeah, he's filming her. And she just like Wolverines her keys and punches him till he's bloody.
Yeah.
It's great.
This is all to the soundtrack of St. Elmo's Fire Man in Motion, which Casey Kasem does say is the #1 song.
St. Elmo's Fire!
#1 song in America, which means that it's September 7th, 1985, or within a week of that.
Within a few weeks of that,
yeah. Which I thought was cool. I was like, oh, that's awesome. That this song that was #1 at this time also sort of works for this moment. Well done. I love it.
Yes. Hilarious. But she goes to her agent and is like, you're my lawyer, right? Which might confuse some people. I wanted to talk about this. Okay. Agents are hard to get. Good agents even harder to get. But lawyers can be retained for money.
Yes.
So if you are a person who cannot get a traditional agent, you can retain an entertainment lawyer, and they can do a lot of the same things an agent can do for you. At the time, as a porn star, she likely would not have been able to get a regular agent. She would have had to retain a lawyer. Now, it is very, very, like, they make it out that Giancarlo Esposito's character is a lawyer, is an agent with an agency. There are lawyers that know that not everyone can get agents and bank on this kind of business and will form an agency around it and become agents because of it.
Paige, this specifically is an agency that is for pornographers, I think.
Yes, it
because
is.
the
That's
name
why
of the
it's
agency
TNA.
is TNA. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
I was wondering if you
yes.
saw that too. I was like, oh, so he specializes in this segment of the population.
He specializes, and this is kind of like new in the industry because traditional agents wouldn't take them, but that is probably, he likely started out as a generalized entertainment lawyer, saw business in repping the people that traditional agents wouldn't rep, and built an agency around it. Now, I will also say, I want to see his Better Call Saul, because his character in this,
I love him. He's great.
is awesome. He's so kind to her,
Yeah.
and has her back 150%.
He's just like a good agent.
He's just a great agent
Yeah.
who does murder a person. But
Well, I'd say they murder a person who was also like harassing and could have tried to kill Maxine. Who knows?
absolutely, and had threatened Maxine a number of times. Now, she basically is like, you're my lawyer, so I have client privilege. And he's like, absolutely, yes. I won't repeat anything, basically. And he's like, how long have we been working together? He's like, I found you working the street and I put you in movies. So that gives us a little bit of like what happened to Maxine in the interim that we didn't see, that like she escaped Texas. She was working as a sex worker on the street. Giancarlo Esposito found her and was like, I could put you in movies, probably because he's done it to other, clients before.
Yeah, probably.
And essentially helped her build a life and career for herself, where like she's got a nice car, she's got a nice apartment, and he doesn't seem to try to be creepy at all. He's just like, I saw that you had talent. I'm excited for you to do a regular movie. Great.
Yeah.
But like, if somebody's going to come after you, I'm going to fuck them up. And you're like, yes, like, all right, cool. And he's like, Teddy's got this. Wait for my call. And you're like, okay, all right.
Okay, Teddy. All right.
Okay, Teddy. We cut to Maxine's apartment where she's doing a little bump of coke and she's going to highlight the shit out of that screenplay.
Yeah, she's getting goosed up.
Goosed up to highlight. We then cut to the video store downstairs where there's a knife on the counter because Leon keeps a knife because dangerous times.
Yeah.
But someone comes in and we don't see them. We just see like the back of their head. We see kind of like an old guy coming out and then glove hand in. But he says to the old guy, I don't do that kind of business anymore. This is just a video store and we're closing soon.
Right.
I think Leon and Maxine met working the street
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yes. And those are bonds for life.
Oh, yeah.
Forged in the fires of Mordor.
Anyone that you would consider yourself being, quote, in the trenches with, those are bonds
Yes.
for life. And that the trenches may be different for everybody, but you've got friends like this.
Yes.
Whether you've done sex work or not. It's just like whatever your trenches were,
Whatever your trenches were.
Yeah.
So glove on counter, grabs the knife. And it is like a faceless guy. We don't see who it is.
It's Dr. Claw killing somebody. Yeah.
It's Dr. Claw killing somebody.
Slices him across the neck, stabs him a bunch. It's ugh.
Slice him across the face so his eye goops
Yes.
out.
Ugh.
Real gross.
Yeah.
And then we watch him get back into the car with Kevin Bacon. So now we know that Kevin Bacon is, at minimum, an accessory and an accomplice to bloody fucking murder.
Oh, yeah.
So he is dangerous.
Oh, I wasn't sad when he died.
No, I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
And we see Dr. Claw wiping all the blood off his hands.
Well, his gloves, his leather gloves. Yeah.
His gloves. We cut to Maxine the next morning. The phone rings. It's Teddy. And he's like, hey, So I called that number. It's just an answering service. It's unlisted. He wasn't a guest of the hotel. And I'm doing all this other research. And he wasn't registered to be on set today. And she's like, okay, cool. And he's like, but when you get to set today, be on time, be on book. Like,
yeah, be ready to go.
Get your shit together.
Yeah.
But the second she leaves the house or is about to, the cops are outside because Leon is dead. And that is the thing that that's the catalyst for her to actually talk to the cops.
Yes.
Because it's Leon and how you can't fuck with Leon.
No.
Like that's her boy.
Yeah.
So they give her a new Coke, and which again sets us in this one place and time.
Yep.
And this is where Michelle Monaghan is like, I got to show you something. She shows her the bodies.
I thought it was crazy that the cops immediately take her to see her dead friends' corpses.
Her dead friends.
But I mean, this was the 80s, so like, I get it.
Well, and I think what they're doing is like, hey, somebody's trying to make this look like the Night Stalker. We don't think it is.
Right.
Because the MO is different, but the common denominator is you. And if I were you, I'd be afraid because like, what's going to happen, right? Like if I were you, I'd ask for help or hide or something. And she's just like, nope, I'm going to be late for work. Because I think at this point, she is starting to put some of the pieces together of who this might be or what this might be.
Yeah.
And even if she doesn't have all the pieces, she's about to end it the second she gets a chance.
Yeah.
She gets to set. The director's mad that she's late. And she's like, I promise I won't waste your time again, whatever. But this is where we meet Molly, who is Lily Collins, who has like she's the girl eating the bloody apple.
Yeah.
And she does have a really interesting, great conversation with Molly where Molly's like, just do whatever she asks. You'll get tons of jobs. And it means my health insurance doesn't lapse.
Yeah.
This is a pointed comment about the strikes that like, if you're not in the industry, you might not know. In order to qualify for, if you're in the Writers Guild health insurance, the same with Directors Guild, or SAG health insurance, Screen Actors Guild, you have to have earned a certain amount per year to then pay your guild dues and then also keep you on guild insurance. Guild insurance is very good. It's actually pretty fucking sweet insurance, but you have to make a certain amount. If you don't have enough jobs in that year, you don't qualify and you lose your health insurance. Big deal. And so this was something that a lot of the strikes were fighting for because as writers' rooms got reduced, as directing jobs became shorter, a lot of people who were working almost full time still couldn't qualify to have health insurance through the guild because of the way their work was being structured. Not necessarily because of guild rules. Like the guild rules are low enough that almost anyone actively working should be able to meet that threshold, but pay has been so inconsistent that a lot of people didn't. So like that is why this is in this scene in this movie. That's why they're talking about it.
Yeah.
But also she's the face on the box. She's the Scream. Love it. And she's like, you should come with me to this party in the hills, some out-of-town producer. And this is the third time we've heard party in the hills. And she's like, girls got to look out for each other. And that triggers something for MaXXXine a little bit later in the movie that we will kind of get to.
Yeah.
We do get her walking through multiple sets on the Universal backlot, including the set from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is another movie about the movie business. Kind of like this one.
But unlike this one, could not resist the urge to actually make it about a famous true crime case.
Right.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, that one's about Manson. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I haven't seen it, but I know Tarantino could not do not Manson. He couldn't have Manson be the red herring.
It's because it's not a red herring. It is the thing, but it's because it's part of his revenge trilogy of like rewriting history of like, what if this changed?
Sure.
But unlike the other two, the Manson murders are not on the same level as like slavery and the Holocaust. And so that part doesn't fully fit for me, but still enjoy the movie. But yeah, it is Manson in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But she goes through that set and Kevin Bacon is standing almost like a cowboy standoff, like a shootout. And she takes off running through the streets of Santa Poco from Three Amigos.
I did think it was cool that like I thought we were going to get like a Gunsmoke style shootout. Because that's where we are, right?
That is where we are. It is Gunsmoke. And then she runs through Santa Poco for Three Amigos. And then she runs out of the clock tower
Yes.
for Back to the Future, which would have been like shooting at the time.
It would have been, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. I also thought it was funny that like Kevin Bacon thought he could catch her in a foot race. Like, sir, you're a middle-aged man from Louisiana. You probably got a belly full of seafood bottom feeders.
Right,
So
right,
like
right.
you're not going to catch someone who just had a V8 this morning.
Yeah. Not only just a V8, but a ton of cocaine. And by V8, I mean like 8 vials of some sort of powder.
I meant V8 the drink, Paige, but yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. It's just slurry in it with some with some coke. She runs up to the psycho house behind the Bates Motel, and he tries to chase her in. She locks him out, and security stops him.
Right.
And is like, hey, where's your pass? Where are you? And they take him away. And at this point, Maxine leaves, walks back down to set, and the director is like, hey, whatever is going on in your personal life that is distracting you, because clearly there is something, fucking squash it this weekend, because on Monday we fucking work. And she's like, oh, I intend to. And she goes home and puts on fucking awesome Blade Runner makeup. Incredible.
I honestly wish she had kept this look the rest of the movie. So like,
so
I wish the
cool.
rest of the movie had happened this night, sort of.
Yeah.
So that we could have had that awesome like red band across her eyes the whole time. Because I loved it. It was awesome.
It looks so cool. She does a bunch of coke because yes. And then she goes to this kind of cool neon bar where Kevin Bacon definitely follows her. And she lures him out the back where they get him with a bat, put him in the car. And when he wakes up, it's her, Teddy, and the DJ from the landing strip.
Yeah.
Who are basically all standing there like, hey, man, who hired you? And he's like, oh, I promise I'll tell you. But they don't even let him. They just put him in the car crusher and he'd get crushed.
I thought that was wild. I thought for sure they'd pause it and be like, okay, tell us. And then finish crushing it.
No.
But they didn't. They just killed Kevin Bacon.
They're just like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah. They just kill him.
They squashed that bacon, guys. They squashed it.
They squashed it. And then Giancarlo Esposito is just like,
We'll clean it up.
we'll clean it up. I was like, that's a good agent, man.
Best agent ever. This dude deserves the 10% or whatever it is. Like, he is working hard for that money.
Yes. And I like that he's like, what are agents for? And I was like, covering bodies.
If I was at CAA, I would be calling my agent right now and being like, hey, get me Giancarlo Esposito Esquire. He's my new agent. And hang up on him.
My new agent. Oh, WME who? UTA could never. But none of those people hide bodies that we know of.
Man, okay, this is like one of those things. I would be shocked if an agent hadn't tried. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh, I'm sure it's happened.
I think agents, because their job is so tied up in the success of the person they're repping, will be the most morally flexible when doing favors for that breadwinner of their income. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like people who are like their income source is derived from a certain stream cannot be trusted when thinking critically about that stream of income. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you mean like when it comes to oversight? Yes.
Yeah. Or like what they'll say that person can do and is capable of or whatever. Like, yeah, they can do anything. It's almost like religion on some level.
Ooh, yes. I mean, especially if you've got a plane.
Yes.
But at this point, they're like, okay, he's dead. But we know that there's still somebody who hired him. So like, it's not fully dead. But she goes to shower at work. She goes to shower at home. And I do love that she opens her fridge and there's a can of Tab in there, which was the original diet soda. It tastes kind of cucumbery. Anyway, she finds the paper that Kevin Bacon gave her that says 166 Starlight Drive. And so she has a flashback to Lily Collins' character Molly going to the party in the hills and Michelle Monaghan being like, I want you to help me save the next girl's life.
Because she realizes, I think she met the next girl.
Yeah, she met the next girl.
She knows the next girl. And we do find out that girl did die.
Yeah, that girl was the next girl.
Yeah, it's real sad. But that is like what causes her to reach out and be like, okay, I'll call I think they're the FBI or they're detectives in the LAPD, right?
They're LAPD.
There you go.
Yeah, they're LAPD. So she calls them. Well, and here's the thing. I don't even know if she calls them or if they were just following her.
I mean, that's fair, but she does start.
Because we don't see her call them.
That's fair, yeah. But she starts like working with them more, I think. right?
No, we never see her talk to them again until they're already there.
Weird. Okay. They've got to be following her then.
They've got to be following her, yes. Because at this point, she's the link, right?
She's the only link. Yeah.
She's the only link. So she drives up to this address. She gets in the gondola, which, first of all, most houses that have a weird gondola or something, there's also a service entrance on a private road. They just don't tell you about it. They want you to take the gondola because it looks cool. But then I started thinking about, like, what if a house only had a gondola for access and how much of a bitch that would be to move?
I would hate having a gondola only accessible house, but I bet you can take a regular ass road up there, but he's pretentious and he makes you fucking take the gondola. Yeah.
Yes.
He's probably got a private access that's like down at the main street or whatever, and then you have to drive up a hill to get to the house. Like he's got a long driveway, but I'm a real dick about it. So park in the parking lot and take the gondola to my back door or whatever.
Take the gondola.
Which also is what I would do. Like that is definitely what I would do for sure.
I like that you're like pretentious. I do it.
Yeah.
But pretentious.
Guys, I didn't buy a house with a gondola access for you to take the stairs. Like, what are we talking about? I'm doing this because I love you, Paige.
Thank you.
Now park down the hill.
Yeah. Anyway, she goes into the house. We see that green door from before. So we know that she is in the place where the other two girls got killed. And we can hear the home videos of her as a little girl. And I was like, I fucking knew it. I knew Dr. Claw was her father.
I know.
And this is where we get the most Dr. Claw scene, because she goes in and sees the video, and then we just see the gloves at a desk next to a phone. And I was like, yes. But he's like, I knew you'd come. It took me years to find you. I missed you so much. I'm here to take you home. And you're like, oh, it's the father. And he's like,
yeah,
I'm making a film. It's about the devil, and I'm going to reclaim you from the devil because the Satanists have done it once and for all. So he's like killing people for his movie project, which also I think is really interesting that her father has artistic aspirations in this way and is also willing to kill for it. I thought that was kind of an interesting dichotomy.
She is her father's daughter, yeah.
Daughter, yes.
I think she's going about it a much more ethical way. I mean, like, she has killed people, but it has been mainly in self-defense. Even when she stomped that guy's Keaton's, it was in self-defense on some level.
Right, and then she killed the old couple who were trying to kill her.
Yeah, self-defense,
yeah.
So I think that he is killing because people don't believe in whatever he believes in. Like, at this point, he's gone, you and I differ on what the definition of a cult is, but I think that he's gone full-on blown cult leader shit.
Oh, this is fully a cult.
And what you see, the people, like his camera crew, who I kept calling the Mormon Tabernacle Choir in my notes.
They do look
because
like
they're
it.
wearing like choir robes, which is not unique to Mormonism. But all of those people are the people in the cult.
Yes.
And the cult operate the business that his televangelism is. Like, I don't think everyone that watches him every Sunday and sends him money is a member of his cult.
No, but these people definitely are.
But his inner circle is a cult. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I do think they killed those women to further their political agenda of being a Night Stalker copycat and like getting people to believe the murders are satanic, etc.
Yeah, the satanic panic of it all. They're the ones who are like facilitating that news story because of their murders. I also think they may have not killed them had they like confessed their sins and gone full-blown crazy cult sort of thing.
I don't know.
They would have just kept them on the compound or something. I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, they might have killed him either way, but it does seem like he at least gives Mia Goth a chance to repent and maybe just because it's his daughter.
Yeah, I think it's just because it's his daughter.
Could be.
Yeah.
We never see the other murders actually take place, so we don't know.
No, but we do see them pleading and begging, and I think they would have confessed if they thought it would get them out, so I don't think they had a chance to get out.
I would say anything you wanted me to say to get out of that situation. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, of course. Anyway, she backs up out of the room, trips over a suitcase, which falls down the stairs, emptying itself of the body parts of Molly, who is still stuck in her very famous screen.
Which has got to be like, that's the Felicia Rose of it all, right? Like that's definitely, I love the homage there.
Yeah, he gets her from behind with a plastic bag, basically suffocates her, she passes out. And we get like a little bit of a montage of like, y'all should cast me, I'm a star, the world's gonna know my name. But she wakes up bound and gagged.
Yeah.
And he's like, I tried to help your friends be saved. I don't think he did. I think he killed them for his own purposes.
I think so too, but he does say that he did try and save them or whatever. And maybe that was always just killing them. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it definitely could be. He's a preacher in a satanic panic horror movie. He's definitely going to be a villain.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had no chance of not being a villain.
No. But they do tie her up, and he's basically going to perform an exorcism for his movie.
Yeah.
And I love that he leans in and he says, play along.
Yeah.
Basically, like, he knows it's fake too.
Of course he knows it's fake.
But he's willing to kill people for his own platform.
And if you think those prosperity preachers don't also know, they're at least bilking you.
Yes.
They might believe in God, but like,
Yes.
then you're crazy.
Yeah.
And if you want someone to give money to, Paige and I will be starting a prosperity horror religion for tax purposes.
I will not.
But then our Patreon members could deduct their Patreon subscriptions.
I mean, the fact that is true.
We're doing it for the people, Paige. We're doing it for the people.
The fact that is true is still upsetting. But so who should show up but Torres and Williams, the detectives? And immediately, it's like that Danny DeVito meme of like, I showed up and just started blasting. Because like, it is an immediate Waco level gunfight.
Well, okay, he does let him preach way more than I would have. If I was Torres and I finally got to be on camera, because this guy's been like talking about how he wanted to be an actor for so long in the movie, and he finally is on camera because they're filming this, I would have just hammed it up and started shooting everybody.
Everybody. He's shooting everybody, but then her dad has the brand and it accidentally catches his robes on fire. I was like,
I know.
Nice. And then he falls into the pool and I was like, fuck.
It's like, hello, metaphor.
Oh, yes.
Because he was about to brand Mia Goth.
That he's the one who gets the flames. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Paige, yes.
But yeah, so Maxine has a knife. She cuts herself out of her like bound and gagged. Cut the ropes, the stuff.
Yeah.
She gets pulled into the pool where she stabs a dude to death.
Through the nose, Paige.
Through the nose. That was fucking brutal.
It was.
But she gets out of the pool. Michelle Monaghan is like, wait for me. And she's like, no. She grabs a shotgun and makes her way up the hill behind the house. It happens to be right up against the Hollywood sign. There are a bunch of houses right up against.
Yeah.
She climbs up to the sign and there she finds Torres and Williams, and Torres has been badly shot in the chest and is bleeding out. And Williams is like, stay here with him. I'm going after the other guy. And as Torres is dying, he's like, I've never been up here before. I wanted to be an actor once too.
It's so sad.
Dead. Super sad.
So, yeah.
Super sad. And then, so she's like, well, now that he's dead, I'm going to take the gun and go after those two. And continues up to where she saw Michelle Monaghan run. And Michelle Monaghan comes back down with a crucifix in her eye and is just like, I told you I'd get him. And then falls down the hill in front of the Hollywood sign.
She did get him, though. Because it is revealed when Mia Goth runs up that he has been shot. Like, he is maybe gonna die, and maybe what Mia Goth does is a kindness on some level.
Right.
Because he has been shot and it doesn't appear like that he can move.
Yeah. He has been gravely injured,
yes.
I would say.
Yeah. So my only point is Detective Moynihan, or whatever her name was.
Detective Williams. Yeah. That's Williams.
She did shoot him. She was right. I told you I'd get him. And then as she like falls off the mountain and probably dies, she was right.
Yeah, she was right. There's a helicopter above. And they're like, drop the weapon.
They say her name. They say, drop the weapon, Maxine. And I was like, how do they know her name?
Well, and they're like, we've got you surrounded, which to me suggests that they were following Maxine. They thought it was her. And then ultimately it was proven not to be her.
I mean, I would understand why she's a suspect because everyone in her life, or everyone that's died is connected to her somehow.
Right.
But yeah.
Right. But we then get almost like a flash into the future, or what she thinks the future could be. And that's her doing press for the movie along with the case where they're like, you had to kill your father who was a serial murderer. And now your movie's the biggest thing and, whatever.
I did love that her agent was like sitting next to her during the interview and didn't say anything. It was just sitting there.
Yep.
I loved it.
He'll be her agent for life.
I know. Yeah.
And if she ever tries to change, he's got serious blackmail. But we end with her on the red carpet where she's like, she does the, it's hard work, do whatever it takes, and I will not accept the life I don't deserve. We cut back to the helicopter lights, and she basically says, like, you gave me just what I needed, Daddy. Divine intervention. I will not accept a life I do not deserve. Kapow. Now.
Dude, that head exploding.
When she says divine intervention, if you remember from X, the same thing happens, and she references divine intervention because it's a ricochet bullet that allows her to get away in X.
Yeah.
But her dad's head explodes. We cut to 1 month later and they're back on set. And it's like no business like show business. She's in her trailer. She's cutting coke with a SAG card. Now, remember what I said about health insurance? You have to have been cast in a project big enough to qualify for the guild. And getting an actual SAG card, like a card for the guild, is a marker of success because it means you have been paid a certain amount to be in a union project. So that in and itself is you have made it to a degree.
Natalie will get SAG must joins because she doesn't work in LA and it's not a requirement that you be a part of the union. So like every time she gets a job, she'll like occasionally get these must join letters from them. I always thought that was like, it's cool because it's like a marker of, hey, you're sort of like a working actor.
Yeah. Yeah. So the fact that she's cutting coke with a SAG card, I was just like, chef's kiss.
I know. Well, and it's she snorts it with $100 bill. Like it's like, okay, she has made it. This is where she wanted to be, where she like stares in the line or stares in the mirror all goosed up. And it's like, you're a fucking movie star.
You're a fucking movie star.
I loved it.
And then walks out onto set. And I was like, she looks like Tippi Hedren or like Janet Leigh. And then the director's like, just like a Hitchcock blonde. I was like, oh, yeah, yeah, you got it. Like, thanks. Thank you. And she says, how does it feel being someone else? And she says, good.
I would have loved it if the line was, I prefer it.
I know. That would have been great. But she says, after this, what do you want to do next? And she just says, I just never want it to end.
Yeah.
And then we hear Betty Davis eyes, and that's the movie.
Yeah. So having seen the movie, having talked about the movie, having seen X, Pearl, and now MaXXXine, what do you think about MaXXXine, Paige?
Oh, I like it. I don't know why this didn't do better.
Me either.
I mean, I do, because I think it's not what people expected. But like, I liked it. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
I think it's the best of the franchise, honestly. It is my favorite. It's not super scary. Some of the body horror is a bit much, and it's not a 1, but it's certainly not like a higher end of the scale for me.
Sure.
And I think it's just like a really well-made movie.
Yeah, I really, really liked it. I was actually glad that this was good, if that makes sense.
Yeah, me too. I was worried that it wasn't good because not as many people talked about it when it came out like they did with Pearl and stuff like that. So like, I was worried it was going to be like a dog shit movie. And I really think like it really stuck the landing that I think the trilogy needed. And it was just a good watch, man. I probably won't watch it again.
Sure.
But if someone threw it on, like I went to my friend's house the other night and they were like, hey, let's watch Oddity. And I was like, well, okay, whatever.
Okay.
And I just like went to sleep and did not watch the movie because it was a horror movie. I'm not going to watch that. I would watch this if you turn on MaXXXine. I'd stay, whatever.
All right, yeah.
But Paige, do you have any fun facts for us?
I do.
Well, hit us with your fun facts.
MaXXXine fun facts. MaXXXine's Oui shirt is a reference to Oui, a men's adult pornographic magazine published in the United States featuring explicit nude photographs. Oui ceased publication in 2007, which is a lot longer than I thought. Now, when Molly talks to MaXXXine outside of her trailer, she says that actresses have to stick together. This is very similar to what Mitzi says to Pearl about sisters-in-law sticking together in Pearl. You'll remember that she does kill Mitzi.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. MaXXXine was originally developed as the end of the X trilogy, but allegedly there are plans for a 4th film.
Really?
I don't love that. Yeah.
Interesting.
I think this is such a great conclusion, and I don't know, but like, so in February of 2024, Ty West was like, I have plans for a 4th film, depending on how this does. But then in August, after this had come out, he was like, I'm happy with where it ended and it may stay a trilogy. And so I don't know if that's because of audience reception or what. I think this is a good ending. I like it.
Me too.
I like it.
I like it too. Although if he made a 4th and Mia Goth was in it, I'd check it out. Like they're good. Like they have made some good stuff together.
Right. Yeah.
And Mia Goth is a producer on this. She may have been a producer on all 3, but she is on this one.
I don't know if she was on X. I know she was on Pearl.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd like to see them do more stuff. It doesn't necessarily have to be this. I think this exists as a perfect trilogy and leave it be.
Yeah. I mean, I would see Puritan 1 with Lily Lily Collins.
I would see Puritan 1 and 2 for sure.
And then Puritan 2 with Mia Goth. 100% I'd watch that.
I would watch the fuck out of Puritan 1 and 2.
That would be awesome.
That'd be fucking great. When they're chasing through the movie lot, I mentioned that they come out of the clock tower.
Yeah.
Back to the Future is set in 1985, just like this movie.
Yeah.
It would have been filmed a little bit prior, but it is set in 1985. So that was a kind of fun touchstone. Mia Goth is the granddaughter of a Brazilian actress named Maria Gladys. And as Mia Goth became more popular in Brazil, this became kind of a fun fact about her that kind of went viral. So marketing for this movie in Brazil, the marketing department said the granddaughter of Brazilian actress Maria Gladys in front of her name every time while it was mentioned.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
While promoting the movie, even though Maria Gladys had no connection to the movie. And ultimately, Mia Goth is probably more famous at this point.
At this point, probably, at least in our country. I don't know about in Brazil. I have no idea what, down there, but.
No idea. Ty West's fiance, Alice in Wonderland, makes a brief cameo in the film as the DJ in the Neon Hearts Club that MaXXXine lures Kevin Bacon to.
Nice.
After MaXXXine finishes her audition at the beginning of the film and sees all the other actresses, there's a sign that reads X Factor, which is something mentioned in both Pearl and X as a special quality sought out for an actress.
Okay.
So while MaXXXine and Elizabeth Bender, the producer character, are on the movie set for Psycho and Psycho 2, she tells MaXXXine, "Congratulations, you made it to the belly of the beast," referring to Hollywood.
Yeah.
In the film Psycho 2, the character Mary, played by Meg Tilly, is reading a book while staying at the Bates Motel called In the Belly of the Beast. A copy of the book is seen lying on the ground.
Love it.
In Psycho 2, filmed 1 year after the events in MaXXXine. In fact, Elizabeth Bender's character says they just finished filming a sequel here.
Yeah, she does.
A copy of the book is seen lying on the ground in Psycho 3, which was the next year. So they would have been filming 3 and having just filmed 2. So that places this movie in time as well, which is pretty fun.
Awesome, yeah.
While MaXXXine does her makeup, in front of a vanity on the desk is a ceramic goose with a large amount of cocaine in it. The goose is a reference to the goose that Pearl killed in the opening of Pearl.
I love it.
Yes.
Gotta get goosed up.
They specifically went, quote, old school during this movie. They made it the same way as it would have been made in the 1980s. They used the same camera equipment as back then and did mostly in-camera effects. So this is a lot of practical work as well. And I think it shows and looks great.
It does.
This looks like it's from the 80s in a good way. They did a great job with that.
I actually kind of wondered what they had used to make it look like it was filmed on film.
Yeah.
Because it really does.
So in January of 2024, an actor named James Hunter filed a lawsuit in LA Superior Court against Mia Goth, Ty West, and A24, alleging that Mia Goth assaulted him on the set of MaXXXine and sued all 3 of them for wrongful termination. He was one of the parishioners and is uncredited in the movie ultimately, but it's one of the cult leaders in the end.
Okay.
As far as I know, this is still unresolved completely, but I don't know the details other than that it has been filed. So I guess I'll keep you posted.
Interesting.
With what happens. This is Mia Goth's favorite of the 3. She thinks that the story for this film is the best. It is her favorite one.
I definitely agree.
The movie within a movie, Puritan, has the tagline, "Her faith will be tested, her soul will be tormented," which I think is fun.
Oh, I just looked it up. The guy who is suing them apparently is alleging that Mia Goth kicked him in the head while she was playing, while in a scene.
Yeah, sure. Probably on accident.
Yeah.
That might have happened on accident, sure. Yeah.
So that's what he's suing about, apparently.
Okay. So this is kind of a fun, there's a couple fun ones. So film cameras like the one depicted in the 1950s that MaXXXine's father would have used to film her performing as a child didn't have sound.
Yeah.
So there would not have been sound on that clip. But I'll leave you on this last one. MaXXXine's Mercedes is the same model used by Jenny Summers in Beverly Hills Cop.
I love it.
And I do, when on location in Los Angeles, the last time you, Mikey, and I were all in LA together, it was directly requested that we drive past the Beverly Hills Police Department playing the Beverly Hills Cop theme song.
And we did it at least one time.
We did it, I think, twice.
Yes.
And those are your fun facts.
Well, thank you for those fun facts, Paige. Let's talk a little bit about box office. So what do you think the production budget was for MaXXXine? And it came out this year, so we're going to use this year's numbers.
I think this probably cost about $24 million.
Paige, I don't have a definitive budget.
I hope to be impressed.
You will be.
Ooh.
I don't have a definitive budget. I know that X was around $1 million.
Yeah.
Pearl was just under $8 million.
And they kind of filmed those at the same time,
Yes.
too.
Yeah, because it was like a COVID kind of a thing.
Right.
This one, Ty West has only said it was a little under $10 million.
This looks fucking fantastic.
Yes, it does look fantastic for that. You're right.
Under 10, this looks incredible, especially with the amount of cameos of like famous people that you have in it. This looks great.
Yeah, I think Ty West did a great job here. But the movie premiered on July 5th, 2024, and it was fourth in the theater the weekend it came out. It was beat by the number 1 movie that weekend, which was Despicable Me 4. Number 2 was Inside Out 2. Number 3 was A Quiet Place Day 1. Number 4 was MaXXXine. And number 5 was Bad Boys Ride or Die, which means your entire top 5 that weekend were sequels. But what do you think MaXXXine made in its opening weekend?
This did not do well. And now that I've seen it, it bums me out.
Right?
Because I really liked it.
I have some uplifting information about how it
great.
did, but yes.
I'm exciting.
Okay.
I think its first weekend in fourth, it probably only made about $5 to $6 million.
Yeah, so it made $6.7 million, which isn't quite the budget back that you would be hoping for, but it was in theaters
Sure.
for 7 weeks total. It was only in the top 10 for 3 weeks, but interestingly enough, Paige, it was week 1, 2, and 4.
Oh, okay.
It was fourth its first week, sixth its second week, and its fourth week it was 10th, which I thought was interesting.
Okay.
Anyway, but what do you think it made domestically at the box office?
Ooh, domestically, I'm going to put this probably at around 19 million.
You're very, very close. It was just over $15 million.
Yeah.
And it also brought in 6.3 internationally. So total, it made $21.4 million.
It made its money back.
Yeah, it definitely made its money back.
Yeah.
Now, here is that uplifting information I was going to share with you. This movie is, out of the trilogy, the highest grossing of all of them.
Wild. But I also remember that X kind of hit festivals first before it like went live, and it didn't have like a great initial release. And then Pearl was kind of the weird thing that like if you knew, you knew, but like not everyone knew about it. That makes sense.
Yeah, so let me just give you some specifics around the movies just so we can kind of put a button in all of them. X, which was a production budget of $1 million, made about $15 million. Pearl, which we assume was around 8 because that's what he said, it was around 8, brought in $10.1 million. And this movie brought in $21.4 million. So it was by far the most it's brought in. And if he spent, let's just say he spent $20 million making all 3 of the movies, they've made a total of $46.7 million. So like they've been successful as movies. And I would love to honestly see someone give Ty West a big budget to make a movie. Or if maybe he can just give himself a big budget to make a movie.
I mean,
go for it, man. You can do it.
Yeah, I have been hit or miss on Ty West in the past.
Same.
Prior to this trilogy. And I've seen a handful of those other movies. I still need to see House of the Devil, but I like these. I really do. If Ty West wants to keep making movies like this, that are basically not this trilogy, absolutely here for it.
I mean, I would love it if he made like a 7 type movie that's like horror adjacent at least, but more crime thrillery. I think he could crush it. Anyway, that's your box office page. Do you want to hit us with that scary scale?
Sure. Our scary scale is a scale of 1 to 10 of how scary we found the film today, with 1 being Ghostbusters and 10 being Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Todd?
I'm going to give it a 3 for both the Buster and the Keatons.
All right. This was a 1 for me, but mainly because it was just pure enjoyment.
Yeah.
The whole time.
I get that.
Super into it. And that's your scary scale.
Well, this week I gave you the gift of watching MaXXXine. Paige, as we continue this theme, which is giving gifts to one another, maybe we should pick a movie that we think the listeners want us to do. And then we'll have them do a listener quest the next week of the one they actually wanted us to do. I think that'll be a funny play on it. So, Paige,
That will be fun.
what movie do you think the listeners really want us to do?
So this is the gift we're giving you because it almost won 2 listener requests earlier this year.
Yeah, in June and July, it almost won.
June and July, and it's available on streaming, so we all have the opportunity to watch it. And that is First Omen.
Yeah, so your homework for next week is to watch The First Omen, which is our gift to you. Now, if we didn't get you the right gift, just like you will have the opportunity when you get gifts this holiday season, you could return that gift and get whatever gift you want, and that will be the week after this. We're still going to do listener requests, and you guys still get to pick, and you guys get to get the gift you want, but we're going to give you the gift of The First Omen.
There you go. Hey, Todd, do you have any reviews for us?
I do. I'm going to start off with this Spotify comment that came in on our most recent The Substance episode.
Yes.
Because the Rocky Horror Picture Show doesn't come out until tomorrow, and I can't wait for that episode to drop. I'm going to read this comment, and it's from a name this is such an inside joke, but if you remember the laugh line from the Rocky Horror Picture Show episode, this name is very funny, and their name is Probably My Jugs on Spotify says, the writer-director also did Revenge, which is on Shudder, and also very good. And I've heard a lot of people say Revenge is great, although the first little bit,
Yes.
when you're finding out why she needs to get revenge, is a little hard to watch. But I haven't seen it. I've heard it's great, though.
Okay, I'm excited.
Yeah, anyway. But Probably My Jugs, thank you so much for that Spotify comment. And if you want to have me read your Spotify comment, or if you want to have me read your 5-star Apple review, leave a review or a Spotify comment, and I'll do just that.
And that's going to be it for us, you guys. I'm Paige.
And I'm your horror virgin, Todd.
Keep it ooky spooky.
Yeah, have an amazing week, guys. Bye! It's always the people you most suspect, nerds. St. Elmo's fire. How did we both do that at the same time? We suffer from the same disease, I think.